It is a little colder today, which is fine. Right, yesterday I started on a video for bipolar. This content is a little sensitive and controversial, to say the least. But as with all mental health issues, if this does trigger you, be very aware that this is a topic of great sensitivity, and that being said, I will continue. Yesterday I went through a basic kind of all over of what bipolar actually is and how it kind of works. And I said that there were 4 different types. Now I'm going to kind of go through each one. This video is going to be on bipolar type 1, which generically is how you would see bipolar. So if someone says they're bipolar, this is what they mean. Bipolar type 1 is generally what people class as being bipolar. Okay, so it is a mental health condition. It's not a personality disorder. It's not a mental health disorder. It is a condition. Okay. Now, I did say that people with this can have symptoms as children. But they don't usually. It's usually people get diagnosed with bipolar at the age of about 25. It's not common to be diagnosed with bipolar as children. It's very common for it to first present at about 25 years old. Okay. Now, there has been, there's been some study done on it. We actually do have some statistics on bipolar. So, here we go. Like I said, I always use notes because my brain can't retain that kind of information, or any kind of real information for long periods of time. Okay. It is very important to understand that bipolar does not care what you are. It doesn't care if you are male, female, non-binary, a they, them, him, her, or other. It doesn't care. It will present in anybody. Okay. And in America alone, 2.8% of Americans have been given this diagnosis. Okay. And 85% of those have a severe form of it. Okay. And the research that they've done says that 1% of the entire world will get this diagnosis in their life. So 2.8% of America, but in the whole world, they have found that at least 1% of the whole world will be given this diagnosis. Okay. Okay. So, with bipolar type 1, they have manic episodes that can last at least, at the very minimum, their manic episodes will last at least a week. Okay, that is important to know. Okay, and when they are in a manic episode, their actual symptoms will be, that there'll be quite a few, but it's very important to know that most people who have type 1 spend more time in a lower depressive episode than they do in manic ones, which is why they single out the manic mode when you research it rather than the depressive one, because most people understand that the depressive modes will be very severe, normal kind of depression, except for the delusions and hallucinations, which I talked about yesterday. That is kind of what they will be like majority of the time that they have an episode. I did talk about like I reeled off a whole list of how their depressive modes kind of go. That is how they are most of the time if they're type 1. They spend most time in the lower depressive episodes. But if they have a high manic mode, if they are in a manic episode, this is what you'll get. You will have that person feeling very elated. They will have, I did sort of kind of go over this a bit yesterday, but I will kind of go over it again because some of it's a little different. So I did talk about how they would have like an inflated self-esteem. They'd be like really super confident. They won't sleep. It's not because they don't, and it will be because they don't want to. They won't feel like sleeping. They won't feel tired. It's not that there won't be this sense of I can't be bothered, or they'll go to bed because they're tired and then can't sleep. It'll be a literal, I'm not tired. I don't want to sleep. I'm not going to sleep because I'm not tired. That is how they'll be. I'm not tired. I'm not going to sleep, and I'm just going to keep going. They'll have lots of energy, loads of energy. I mean, talk about. Do you remember? Okay, when we talk about having lots of energy, can you imagine, like, if you're, I know not everybody has this, but if you're a parent and you've got little ones and they are under your feet, running around, and you're sitting there going, just sit down for 5 minutes, because they just won't stop. To the point where you take them out because they are literally destroying your house because they just can't sit still. You know, that kind of energy. You know, to the point where you have to take them outside or, you know, throw them out in the garden to run off their energy because they can't sit still for 5 seconds. That kind of energy. That's the kind of energy we're talking about. Or like at Christmas when you've got all the nieces and the nephews and the family over and the kids are going mental. You know, and they are jumping around, like throwing things, like jumping on the furniture, you know, yelling, screaming. You're talking that kind of very young kid energy. Very high. And if I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. Please do. If I've got that kind of energy wrong, I do wish you to tell me. Okay? They will talk very fast. Super fast. Like you'll struggle to keep up with them. They will have a lot of thoughts. They'll think really fast. So they'll have lots of things that they'll want to do. They'll have a lot of ideas. They'll have a lot of things going through their head. And it can cause them to act really impulsively. And in some cases, they will have an excessive appetite for pleasurable activities. Now, make of that sentence whatever you want. But remember, they are pleasurable activities. Yeah. Okay. and considering they're adults. Yeah. Anyway, they will be easily distracted, and they will get really irritated really easily. Okay. That is how they will work. That is how their manic episodes kind of work completely. Right, so when they are in a manic episode, that is kind of how they are constantly. Okay, that is how they will behave. That's the kind of thing you will expect. Now, if I've got anything wrong, or if I've missed anything, you have got to let me know. Okay, because if I've missed something important in any of that list, please tell me. Now, although scientists have done some research, they don't know the exact cause. I mean, they have found, or they do believe that genetics, I mean, they always believe that, they've always found that genetics have some common factors in all mental health conditions and personality disorders. But it has to be with a close family relative, not distant family relative. So parents, aunts, grandparents, aunts and uncles, obviously, grandparents, close family, nobody other than that. It has to be close family. They're brothers and sisters, obviously. They're not talking extended family or like back in the day, anything past the grandparent realistically. They're not talking heritage or far back. They're talking very close family. So if it goes back past a grandparent, so once, realistically you get past grandparent stage, it's not that, the risk gets lower. That's what they're kind of saying. And they have to have already had the condition. So with bipolar, normally they say it's someone with the condition or something similar. With bipolar, they have to actually have this condition for it to matter, for the risk to be high. So if your parent has it, the risk to the children is 10 times higher. Once the children have children, the risk lowers if they don't get it. So if your children grow up and they do not get it, the risk to the grandchildren decreases. Yeah, that's kind of what they're saying. So as generations go, the risk decreases. That's how they feel the genetics of the condition go. But they have, I love it when they do this, when the research is actually done, they find a lot more. So they've actually found a brain structure and function. I love it when they do the research. In 2022, which is really, really new, they found that people with bipolar have a certain structure in their brain. It's like a thinning structure. It's weird. The brain. Yeah, I couldn't find all the terms and that for it, but all I found was that they'd found that parts of the brain structure start to thin with people with bipolar. Yeah, and obviously they're still studying it because there wasn't a great deal of information on it that I personally could find. But everybody on here knows how good I am at finding stuff and like loads and loads of information. I'm still learning. I'm still having a look, so I might find a bit more as I go along. So I am still looking to find what these thinning structures are. I'll find it. I will. And They've also found, obviously, stress. Stress is mental. Now, I personally know how detrimental stress is to people and how dangerous it is, and how dangerous it is on the brain. Now, you took a mental image of my brain. I know full well that you're not going to get anything. I have brain scans regularly because of my FND, and just to make sure that nothing's changed. And it hasn't. People with FND, their brains, the brain structure doesn't change. There's nothing shows up on a brain scan. Yeah, it's weird. No, my brain looks completely normal, even though it's broken. It's weird. So yeah, so people with bipolar, however, there's thins the structure of their brain actually starts to thin in certain areas. Yeah, I will find it. If you find it first, go for it. Tell me, find it, put the link in the comment for me. Alright? Because you know what I'm like. I put a thing in the thing and I get up with all sorts of weird stuff, and then I click on something, don't understand it, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, that's weird. Yeah. No idea what I'm doing. So yeah, thinning brain structures, and I'm like sitting there going, what the fuck is that? And I have no idea what I'm looking at, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's right or if that's wrong, and I'm like, yeah. But if you find it, put the link in the comment for me. And obviously stress is massive. Find that if you will get, but the chances of you getting bipolar happen if something disturbs the way your brain processes stress. So it's not about the stress in itself, is if the way your brain processes stress, if that is disturbed in your brain, I don't know how it would be disturbed. They haven't figured it out yet. They did research into this in 2021, according to this. But they found that there's a disruption if the disruption in how your brain processes stress, you become at risk for bipolar. So and I'm assuming that changes with whoever you are, changes for people. So if, depending on how your brain deals with stress, if something happens to change the way it deals with it, it could put you at risk for bipolar. That is what they're kind of saying. Okay, so that is from research they've done in 2021. So the research they're doing is really new. So they haven't been researching bipolar for a long period of time, and we all know that research into these things takes years. So the fact they found anything like that is incredible, realistically. So in the next couple of years, we could find way more stuff on bipolar. You know, there are many treatments on bipolar type 1. Well, they're not, but there are medications. People with bipolar are on medication. It is that simple. And they need therapy. And it is talking therapy. This is how they're treated. They are treated with mood stabilisers, antipsychotics, and antidepressants. So they will always go on lithium. Lithium is a mood stabiliser. It is a long-term mood stabiliser. They all, regardless of which type of bipolar you are, and it doesn't matter whether you are on the cyclothymia, you will be put on lithium. Lithium is a mood stabiliser. It is a long-term mood stabiliser. It takes time to start working properly. It is the best course of action for anybody on bipolar. They will always put you on it. But there are other types of mood stabilizers they will use if necessary. And antipsychotics and antidepressants as well, but they'll discuss that obviously when you're diagnosed. That'll be something you'll discuss. But lithium is something you will always be put on. No if, buts, and maybes. There are different types of talking therapies that you will end up in, or you could end up in. Things like CBT is pretty much a go-to. Psychoeducation therapy, or mood monitoring. Interpersonal therapy, couples and family therapy, and meetings. So they give you options to help you and your family as well, so that you can, 1, learn to control the condition, 2, help your family learn to live with and help you control the condition. So it's beneficial to everybody. So I'm assuming you'll get choices, or you'll get a choice of actual therapy to help you, and offered couples therapy or family meetings, so that your family and your partner can help you and learn to live with you as well, with the condition, so that they don't feel like they're being isolated, pushed out and kept in the dark a bit. What time is it? 22. One more. Okay. If we do bipolar type 2, and then I'll leave it here. Okay. Because bipolar type 2 actually is similar to type 1, but is a little milder. Maybe I should have done it in order. I don't know. But I wrote it down this way, so yeah. I was going to do it in order, and then I forgot. I actually was going to do it in order, and then I kind of forgot, because this is how I wrote it down. Anyway, bipolar type 2, I'm really sorry. Bipolar type 2 is milder than type 1. I'm sorry I didn't do it in order. I forgot I was doing it in order. It's milder than type 1. But they, just purely because they do not go into like a full mania, they don't have manic modes, like manic episodes. They have what classed as hyper manic modes, which are mild versions of type 1's manic episodes. And they usually get at least one of these in their lifetimes. They usually are manic depressives. This is what you get. Bipolar type 2s are usually what is classed as manic depressives. But as a general rule, these people who have bipolar type 2 lead a fairly normal life, realistically. Again, anyone can develop this at all. And statistics are that realistically there are 6 million people in America with bipolar type 2. That's 2.5% of the population. And most people develop this in their teenage years and into their early 20s. So if you are developing bipolar in your teenage years, it will be type 2. I did say that children can get it. If you do, it will be type 2. not type 1. If you develop bipolar as an adult, it will be generally type 1. If you get it in your teens, it'll be type 2 as a rule. Okay. When they are hypomanic, which again only really get one in their life, because these are the manic depressives. And again, the same symptoms that I listed in the first episode. So these will, again, they'll have euphoric kind of moods. They'll be very euphoric, very kind of hyper elevated kind of happiness. Or they'll be super irritable. One or the other, right? They will never settle on one idea. They'll be flitting from one thing to another. They will always have a super exaggerated sense of self. Okay, but the difference is there's a self-confidence, not just ego. Okay, they will have a rapid and loud speech. So they won't just be speaking quickly, it'll be really loud and it'll be uninterruptible. And it's very important to note, you will not be able to interrupt them at all. Okay? They will become hyperactive and they will not need to sleep at all. These are the ones, do you remember in your teenage years there was always that one kid who was the life of the party and the joker? Yeah? That's what these people are when they're in that kind of state. They are the life of the party. They make jokes, they take an interest in everybody. They make everybody around them feel so amazing, so positive. You know, but the issue with that is it's erratic behaviour and it's unhealthy. And the difference, and if untreated, it can lead to full-blown mania, where again they start like risky behaviour, where they start, sleeping around and engaging in really risky, impulsive behaviours. Okay, and that is when they are in that hypermania mode. So when they are when they are hypomanics, right, that is how they behave. Okay, and like I said, most people get this in their teens or, up to sort of 20, 21, between sort of 12, 13 to sort of early 20s. That is the age in which you can get, generally, as a rule, most commonly, type 2. That is when they're diagnosed. Okay. But that hypermanic episode usually only ever once in their lifetime. Okay. But as they spend most of their time in that depressed mode, okay, this is what you'll end up with, you'll get like regular depression. We all know how that goes, especially as adults. We all know what regular depression looks like. With, obviously, a loss of pleasure, sex drive, no energy, have no wish to do anything, don't want any activity at all. They will feel guilty, worthless. They will always have suicidal thoughts. Always. It is a given. And they can last from weeks to months, and on the rare occasions, years. That is why it is type 2, although less severe than type 1. This is where they spend most of their time. If they are having an episode, this is what they are. There are those in type 2 that will have what's classed as a mixed episode, where they will go back and forth from hypomanic to depressive. But they will feel normal most of the time. Like I said, people with type 2 have a fairly normal life. So in between all these episodes, they will actually feel normal the majority of the time. Difference is, if it is left untreated, a hypomanic episode can last up to several months. So if they go into a hypomanic episode, if it is left untreated, it can last several months. Okay, it is dangerous for them to be left untreated. Okay, and the treatments, again, very similar for type 1, but the difference with type 2 is it masks a lot of things. Hypomania masks itself as happiness and optimism when it doesn't cause unhealthy behaviours. So it can go unnoticed and untreated, which type 1 can't. You can spot a type 1 manic episode easier than you can a type 2 hypomanic episode. Type 2s have preventative medications, which will level out their moods. It will prevent the negative effects of the hypomania and all the depressive episodes that they have. But again, it is the hardest one to spot. It is really difficult to spot because it masks itself so easily. So they again will be on lithium. Now I found out that lithium actually has been used for bipolar disorder for 60 years. I thought that was a really cool piece of information. But it's simply there to help them to stabilise their mood and keep them from, but it is a long term. So you don't it's not just a quick fix. It takes a long time to actually take full effect in the system. So they find it's far more effective for people with bipolar. So they've been using it for 60 years. So it doesn't matter what type of bipolar you have, you always take lithium. So they use, now I can't pronounce all of these, but carbamazepine, if I've pronounced that right, it's an anti-seizure drug that they use. And they've been using that to treat manic episodes since 1970, which is awesome. I do like finding some. And the lamotrigine, I don't know is approved by the FDA for adults with bipolar. It helps delay the mood episodes, and it doesn't matter which kind of mood episode they're in. But they do know that it's better for the depressive moods than the higher ones. And if they're actually, and they will use valproate. It is an anti-seizure drug, but they find that if someone with bipolar needs a quick kind of a quicker stabilizer than lithium. It does the same thing. It's quicker than lithium, does the same job. Although it's an anesthesia drug, according to what I found. But it works quicker than lithium and does the same thing. So I'm assuming they use it as a way to bring somebody, to stabilise someone who's in a dangerous situation, or their either mood is too low and they're becoming suicidal, or they're in a manic episode or hypomanic and they're doing something like really dangerous, to sort of stabilise them quicker. So yeah, and they will, if needed, prescribe antipsychotics. I could not find, under any circumstances, could I find what antipsychotics they use. I just couldn't find them. I don't know. I found the diazepam that they use for when they are struggling with sleep, and if they're agitated and having sleep issues, they use diazepam. So I did find some of the medications, like the Seroquel and the Seroquel XR, which again are FDA approved for bipolar type 2. They are designed for people with depression, and that they might give Prozac if necessary. Okay, they are the only medications that I found. Okay. They don't know what causes bipolar type 2, but they know it can be prevented. Well, they don't know it can be prevented. They know that with regular therapy and medication to stabilise it, they can spot the warning signs of a relapse to make sure that the right meds are taken at the right time, and that is all they know. They know that once it's been diagnosed, they can control it really easily. And now I feel like I'm going the wrong way, because I've gone from like type 1, type 2. I really did do this the wrong way around, but I am going to leave it here. Considering I did do this completely the wrong way around. But this is how I kind of found it in my research. But yeah, I shall see you all tomorrow, and this video is much longer than I expected it to be, and now I'm going to go warm up.